It is not me or anyone else's right to judge another in their faith and devotion. It is and always will be a personal choice that is no one else's. Faith is a very personal and unique path for each and every one of us. In my mind, every religion points to the same direction, a belief in God and devotion. This is beautiful. All religions lead to the same source. What I do have a problem with is that often dogma leaves no open door for a conversation for others to have a faith or believe in a different path of devotion. To me, religion and one's spirituality is their own, and who am I to judge which path is the right one? It is for each person to decide this for themselves. It is not me or anyone else's right to judge another in their faith and devotion. It is and always will be a personal choice that is no one else's. This conversation on TV was a closed, no-win situation. All too often, I've come to believe that one loses touch with their own spirituality when they turn to religious dogma. I've seen it in my own heritage of Judaism, in Christianity, as well as Hinduism and Buddhism. I've learned to respect every religion. Faith is a very personal and unique path for each and every one of us. No religion is better than another. More importantly, it's how one's heart and mind connect that is the real true path. Solely based on my own personal experiences, my travels around the world, and my personal studies of the Bible, the Quran, and Hindu scriptures. How can one's God be any better than anyone else's? When the unity minister finished trying to answer the woman from an evaluated Christian standpoint, I felt compelled to say something. I started out by acknowledging that the person in the audience was absolutely correct in her statement. One can only serve one of two fathers. This I came to know through my experience and studies with my Sufi teacher, as well as my own cosmic out-of-body experiences. So I started out by saying, "Madam, you're absolutely correct in this statement, but let me give a modern New Age interpretation of what the Bible has been saying for centuries. One is either coming from a God of love in their heart or coming from fear and hate in one's heart. These are the two fathers one has to choose in his or her own heart daily." Thinking this was a good answer, and we can now move on and really discuss and really begin to discuss the questions about the New Age. Instead, everything went downhill from here. The next individual was exactly the same as the first. So it appears the producers had stuffed the audience with many devout Christians just to create a shock TV reality show. I get it, but this was so counter to being able to really share what the New Age is about and not about. After 3 or 4 in the audience, all spouting the same dogma, I realized this was going nowhere. Fully aware that it would matter little, I just shut my mouth, crossed my arms, and sat in silence on TV for the next 45 minutes. Towards the end, the producer, as a caller, called in to ask a question. This male voice comes on sounding very sad and despondent. He begins by saying, quote, "I am an alcoholic. I lost my job and my wife has left me. My life is a mess, and how can the New Age help me?" All the panelists were not sure how to answer him. I felt I had to speak up and say, quote, "You first need to get in touch with your feelings. It all starts there." And before I have a chance, she then cuts me off and says, "We have to end it here and take a station break for commercials." I am furious at this, as I could not finish what I was going to say. I was going to answer, "I am fully aware that you must be going through." I grew up in an alcoholic family. Though my dad was a hardworking and enterprising man, he did have a drinking problem until he became completely sober. I will inject here that when my father did go sober, we were able to come back together, deepen our relationship, and come to a more loving place towards the end of his life. The one thing missing while I was growing up was that no one in my family was honest about their feelings and why one turns to something like alcohol to numb the pain. Change always begins with one first. I found myself so incensed by the whole experience. As soon as the show ended, I packed my crystals and just walked out of the studio and did not wait to even talk about the crystal she was interested in. I was so angry by the fact that they had not really wanted to discuss what the real meaning of the New Age was. Instead, they turned the whole experience into some circus show for the shock factor. There was no substance, just this type of shock reality TV. I felt I was lied to by the producers when I was first interviewed. I walked out of that studio and did not look back. After the TV program, I wondered what difference did my presence matter. I didn't really say that much. I don't think anybody heard me or understood me. The next day when I returned home, my mother-in-law called me to congratulate me. The first thing I said was, "How can you say that? There was really nothing truly said, just this shock TV scenario where they placed dozens of fundamental Christians to mock us and discredit us. It was a circus for TV ratings." The next thing my mother-in-law said absolutely blew me away. She said, "Never underestimate your impact. Remember, you were looking at maybe 100 or so who were in the audience live on the show. Don't forget the millions of TV viewers who were watching this show across America. That was a real audience. What you had to say was powerful. You were really good, and know that it did have an effect on those watching." I realized I had not even thought of this. She was absolutely correct. I was focused and thinking of only the audience in front of me and not that I was being watched across America. All those millions of viewers that tune in who maybe could see through the circus charade and hear the grain of truth each of us was sharing on the panel. I want to personally share a bit about my mother-in-law, in that she was not your ordinary run-of-the-mill mother-in-laws. She was a powerhouse of a woman.